So now that you guys know everything there is to know about LeadND after Connor's presentation, at least its use as a certification system, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to use it as a sustainability tool for local governments. So, why are municipalities interested in LeadND, or maybe why should municipalities be interested in LeadND? I think these 4 points are kind of hold the answers to that question. So, sustainable development has proven value, and I think part of that value is the diversity of those sustainable communities. And when I say diversity, I'm talking about diversity of housing, diversity of commercial product type, diversity of transportation options, diversity of experiences. And I think the communities that have these features, they attract more jobs, they attract more, or they have more business opportunities. They also, I think maybe most importantly, offer a resilient tax base for municipalities. And so what we want to do is, we want to develop desirable places to live, and I think diversity is a crucial part of that. And so I skipped ahead, but to go to this slide, some people have done a few studies to try and quantify this economic benefit of sustainability. This is an interesting study by the University of Massachusetts about looking at investment in transportation infrastructure, whether it's bike lanes versus auto road resurfacing. You'll see that employment per $1 million spent on these things, bike lanes come out 2 times better than approximately than auto road upgrades. So it's an interesting study, kind of leads us in that direction. This is another study by the APA in 2010. It talks about the value of land of value of density per acre, and so obviously the 6-story multi-use building is the most valuable product on this chart. But I think it's worth kind of remembering that there is that value in density and diversity. It's 6 stories and multi-use, and that LeadND takes both of these things and makes them a key part of the metric. So another point about communicating about creating a sustainability plan for a community is the process of communicating that with your community. What is sustainability? And I think LEAD offers the opportunity to kind of have that trusted, established brand, if you will, for sustainability. Within your communities, most people, if they associate anything with sustainability, LEAD is probably on that list. So LeadND, moving into the realm of community planning, kind of offers you a tool to help facilitate that sustainable community discussion. And in that sense, I don't mean to say that the LEAD rating system is, as it stands as a certification, is useful for communities, but it's the metrics within LEAD that really are useful and can be applied. And it gives you that opportunity to not start from scratch and really look at an established, recognized document and pick the pieces out that really are meaningful for your community and make sense for you to use. So speaking of those metrics, we've got a number of projects and also guides available for use with LeadND. Obviously on top you've got the resource manual from the USGBC. Connor covered a couple of these, the Citizen's Guide to LeadND, and on the second row down is the Citizen's Guide to LeadND and the USGBC's Local Government Guide to LeadND. And those 3 have just an amazing source of information and examples on how LeadND has been used and can be used. And then of course that has created a whole ecosystem of plans all across the country in terms of comp plans, catalyst site studies, development agreements, code and zoning reviews that have been done by municipalities successfully using LeadND as a guiding document in many cases. So impact, how can we have the most impact using LeadND at a municipal level? I think the key point to think about is that municipalities are critical in the implementation of community sustainability and also LEED ND. The 2 points to make there obviously is you have the greatest gains for sustainability at the planning scale. And I think all of us kind of intuitively know that. And then more specifically to the LEED ND credit system, 33% of the credits within LEED ND are vicinity credits. So they're not something that the developer can necessarily control on their site. They're related to the greater community. And of course, developers can choose different sites to work on, but you know, it's a partnership with the surrounding areas that they want to develop in, and it also, you know, behooves communities to kind of lay the groundwork in areas that maybe do not meet a lot of those vicinity points. And it really, you know, gives us an opportunity to work together to build a network of sustainability in our communities and between our communities, as opposed to, you know, a checkerboard of sustainability of single buildings that have been developed in the most sustainable way possible. So, what can you do, you know, right now? How can you start working with LEED ND as a municipality? Well, I think a good starting point is education. You know, educating staff, educating the community, educating developers. LEED ND is an interesting, another piece of that is that LEED ND is an interesting tool in the sense that it really reaches out to many pieces of your communities or your municipalities. So there's, you know, the planning department is obviously crucial, building department is crucial, you know, any sort of transportation entity, economic development, you know, all of these people are big players, public works of course, are all big players in the development of any sustainable community guideline or goals that you may set as a community. And then just as a quick example of how this has been done, Palo Alto, they actually started this as a way to look at how to bring LEED ND into their development regulations or their codes and their zoning requirements. But the way that they did that was that they did a pilot program for a few years with developers and kind of worked through the process. And it was, you know, no sort of you know, all good. What was Connor's slide? You know, more good, less bad. You know, they weren't really trying to penalize anybody for not being able to do things in LEED ND. They were just trying to work through the credit system with these people and understand how it relates to their community, how it works in their community. And I think it's a great example of how you can educate everybody in your community about community sustainability and also possibly LEED ND. So, you know, other things you can do right now with in your community is assess your community for opportunities in sustainable development. Right? You can, and LEED ND gives you the points and the metrics and the ideas to do that with. The smart location and linkages credit category is a great tool for this, and obviously the neighborhood pattern and design can also get into it once you get down to a tighter scale. So you can, you know, and you can review your zoning code or your building codes based on the neighborhood pattern and design and the green infrastructure and building credit categories as well. It also, any of you that may have available land for development, or you're looking for, you possibly may enter into a partnership with the developer in the near future. You know, LEED ND is a great tool to pull pieces out and put into a development agreement, for example, with a developer. It has a lot of very measurable, concrete ideas that can lead you in the right direction for sustainability, and I think that's what you need in those kinds of contracts. So, finally, once you've gone through all that, you know, as a community, you can set goals and make commitments. This is, I guess, this is me setting goals. Right? Somebody else is making the commitments, but I'm going to go through a couple quick examples. We've got coming up. We've got Travis and Carlos to give us excellent examples of how they've used LEED ND in their communities. The LEED ND guide for local governments has a number of examples in it, so I'm just going to highlight a couple of them very quickly for you. This is the city of Bellingham in Washington. They use LEED ND to evaluate their urban villages, and so they essentially scored their urban villages using the LEED ND credit system and determined where the weaknesses were for those villages and where the strengths were. And then that led them to the potential to make those places more sustainable and better neighborhoods using the solid metrics in LEED-ND that they could apply. Another situation. This is the old Pabst Blue Ribbon Brewery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they, as you might expect, this is a industrial area. It doesn't have walkable streets. It doesn't have great connectivity. It has a lot of issues for redevelopment. And of course, Milwaukee was really dying to turn this into this great mixed-use development. So they took LEED-ND and they looked at those credits that I just mentioned, connectivity and walkable streets and many other things, and to determine what those pieces are that they need to invest in to remove the barriers to the redevelopment of this property. And then they set up a TIF to help fund that. That brings up another possible side point that it's an interesting opportunity with something like a TIF is to make it contingent on sustainability goals or sustainability requirements. And then, the final thing that, and this is more relating to the actual use of LEED-ND as a certification system, there's incentives that municipalities can put in place to help it get used. I guess on this list, my favorites are probably the density bonuses for Stage 1 certification, and then the other one that's probably going to jump off the screen to you is grants. A lot of communities probably can't do that. There are a number around the country that surprisingly have, but there are also national grants available from the USGBC, and those can help you get a project certified. And finally, the marketing assistance. I think it's good to kind of give some credit to developers and developments in your communities that have really achieved high sustainability goals. So I think that's a nice thing. I think we've talked about this enough, but these are available resources. I think most of this is in the document here. You can download the Citizens Guide and the Local Government Guide for free. USGBC has the rating system and the checklist also for free as a free download. And then the resource manual does cost a few dollars, but it is a good document. So with that, thank you all for showing up today and joining us for this, and hopefully you're scheming up some hard questions for us later.